to introduce you tonight to Mr. Leslie Flint.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, thank you very much for your warm welcome. I think I should explain that there may be some things that I say which may not be acceptable in some quarters. I've been in spiritualism since I was 15 years of age. I'm now 80. I've done over 60 years of mediumship, which, if I may so say, is in itself unique, because I don't have to sort of mentally, as it were, tune in. And I know that many, many mediums do that, and they're, in some instances, highly successful. All I have to do is go into a room, switch the lights out, and the voices come. And everybody can hear those voices. Sometimes they're voices of people's relations, sometimes they're people who, when on earth, were very famous, and we get a great deal, or did when I worked. I've now had to retire. We had a lot of information from the other side about life in the other world of spirit. And some of the things that we have received have been so extraordinary. And we have made, over the years, thousands of recordings which have been sent all over the world. And some of these recordings in themselves have certainly helped and uplifted people, even if they didn't fully understand or fully believe. And I can quite understand why people are skeptical. And because of skepticism, over my lifetime, I have subjected myself, or been subjected, to all manner of kind of tests. And it's quite understandable that people normally would say, well, look, I don't believe a word of it. That a man can sit in a room and we can get voices, and everybody can hear those voices, and they can be taped. And so, in consequence, I subjected myself to all manner of kind of experiments with scientifically minded people, members of the psychical research in this country and in New York. And when I first went to New York, I stayed with a professor of Columbia University who was a member of the psychical research in New York. And I stayed in his apartment on Riverside Drive for many, many weeks. And I was subjected to all manner of kind of tests. I had throat microphones which were attached, so the slightest tiz in my throat came through a loudspeaker. It was impossible for me to speak unless, of course, it came through a speaker. In spite of all these experiments, and there were many of different kinds with different people, we still got the voices. But of course, as one would expect in a kind of strange way, there are some people, no matter what they receive or what they hear, will be skeptical. This is understandable. I think the whole subject of psychism or spiritualism is open to honest skepticism. And I think anyone who investigates or comes into the subject of psychics has every right to be skeptical. Honest skepticism is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I think there's a lot of things that take place that are referred to as being psychic, which, quite frankly, have got little or nothing whatever to do with the other side of life or spirit people. I wouldn't have said perhaps some of the things I now say at 80. I wouldn't have said some of the things, obviously, when I was 20, because I've learned a great deal. You see, I came into spiritualism in the earlier years, in the gay so-called 20s, when, quite frankly, the media mediums of that time, with all due respect, I'm not being unkind, were very ordinary working class people, and some of them couldn't speak the King's English to save their life. I mean, the first meeting I ever went to, when I was 16 years of age, sitting at the back of the hall, the medium came onto the platform, and quite frankly, which one shouldn't have done, I thought, my God, it looks as if the cat's been dragged in. She had no idea of how to dress for the platform. And I suppose being young, and also having been dissuaded by my grandmother who brought me up to go to Sunday school in St. John's Church, that I should have a proper background, I couldn't help but notice the difference between the spiritualistic minister and the church minister, where at least in the church everything was properly organised, properly run, and there was a great sense of dignity. But here was this woman who came off the platform looking like I don't know what, no sense of appearance whatsoever, looking bedraggled. And then she had to give the opening prayer. Well, I couldn't believe my ears. With all due respect, she really couldn't speak the King's English to save her life. She was a real gore blimey. She dropped her ages and picked them up en route. And I thought, what the hell have I come into? But I had read a book which fascinated me, to do with life after so-called death. And I thought there might be something in all this, because I'd had some strange experiences as a child. Anyway, I sat at the back of the hall. There was women all around and about, hardly a man in sight. And I was the only bloke at the end of the back. And anyway, eventually the woman, the medium, sat down in the chair, and then we had hymns, and then we had notices of what was happening in the future. And I looked at this woman sitting in this big old chair, and I thought, my God, the woman's gone to sleep. She sat there like this, with her eyes closed, and I thought, what the hell is going on? That woman's gone to sleep. Anyway, the president of the church said, we'll now have a talk from the guide of our beloved medium. Well, the woman got up. And this is not a lie, it's absolute honest to God truth. I'd never heard anything like it. This woman was completely and absolutely transformed. From her came this deep, booming, masculine, cultured voice, which gave a talk for about 20 minutes, which really would have been considered an excellent speech from some person in high office. I was utterly astounded, and then eventually she walked back to her chair and sat down. Then we had another hymn, and then the president said, we'll now have clairvoyance from our beloved medium. And I'd never obviously been to anything of the kind where they had clairvoyance. And she got up, and she went to a couple sitting in the front row. She says, there's a young boy here wants to talk to you. He says he's your son. He was killed in an accident, wasn't he? The old couple sat there. Yes, that's true. And she relayed this message, which was, well, I'm sure most people in that hall were really sort of feeling pretty grim, emotional. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, so I want to talk to you. You, sitting at the back there, you, put your hand up. Well, I didn't think it had anything to do with me at all. And the woman next to me said, oh, come on, put your hand up. You get a message. I put my hand up. And this woman said, here. She said, there's a man standing behind you. And she described him. Says his name is Lewis. And he says something about being a teacher. Some of these people never get in. So she said, you know what you should do? Join a circle. I didn't even know I knew what a circle was, but what the psychic says. So I said, oh, well, I don't know about that. Because I'm mad keen to become a professional dancer. And I was taking lessons, and I got a partner, and I thought, oh, no, I'm getting too involved in this spiritualistic business. Anyway, to long with the story short, these different mediums always, without exception, said there's a young-looking Arab with you. And one medium said, I don't know if he really was an Arab, or whether he dressed up like an Arab. But every medium, one after the other, week in and week out, always referred to this young Arab.